Hello, everyone. My name is Megan Rui, and today I'll be discussing the folklore of Scribner, Nebraska. Folklore is the tradition of beliefs, customs, and stories passed down through generations, and there are many of these seen in this town. I chose this topic because both my mom and my grandpa were born and raised in this town. Also, this is where my grandparents met. So Scribner is very important to my family. Here is a picture of Main Street of Scribner. And here is a map of all the counties in Nebraska with an arrow pointing to Dodge County, which is where Scribner is located. And here's another map of Nebraska, but with all the counties labeled. One interesting fact about all these counties is that 83 of the 93 different counties put on a fair every year, according to the Nebraska Association of Fair Managers. To conduct a little research project on the folklore of Scribner, I decided to do some interviews, but before we talk about the interviews, I'd like to go over some background information. Scribner was founded in 1871 and has a population of 857 people. Its mission statement is to promote the quality of life small towns are famous for. Neighbors help neighbors where we welcome new friends and treasure old ones, and everyone is a valued part of the community. This mission statement accurately represents what I've seen in Scribner, as I have been going there my whole life. To discover more of the folklore of this town, I decided to conduct a few interviews. I conducted 4 interviews, and I did these by phone or Facebook Messenger, depending on my informant's preference. I interviewed previous residents of Scribner. They had all lived in Scribner for at least 20 years, with the one living there a little over 40 years. I reached out to family members and acquaintances. I attempted reaching out for more informants, but I did not hear back from them. Additionally, I emailed the economic developer of the town for more information and was given a link to the newspaper, which I found very helpful. 3 main ideas of the folklore of this town jumped out to me from what my informants had to say. These were community, importance of community, religion, and tradition. So first, we will talk about community. The community is composed of townsfolk and countryfolk. Everyone has a role that is important to the success of the town. For example, the baker could not survive without the grocer, and the grocer could not work effectively in the town without the banker, etc., etc. This applies to everyone, both those who live in town and those who live out of town. Families tend to remain in the town for generation after generation. This can be seen in a family story, which I'll share. My great-grandpa gifted my grandpa his house on his wedding day and decided to move into a house a mile away that he built for himself. This was to stay near his family. The social circle of Scribner was important to the residents. Everyone had strong opinions about who they were, where someone lived, how they acted, and etc. And this played into where they were positioned in the social circle. One important component of determining where you were in the social circle was whether or not you lived in town. Those in town were more likely to form cliques and excluded those who lived outside of town. Wealth and leadership were also factors in determining popularity in small towns. People knew how much money everyone had, and this played into where you were situated on it, whether you were more popular or less popular. And then leadership was also important in determining popularity, as everyone knew who was in control of the town, even if they were not the most liked at times. These opinions of people were not held strongly at the fair, though, and most people had their guards down, and making it a more relaxed environment, which is why people enjoyed the fair a lot. Another idea mentioned by my informants was the idea of religion and Christianity being important to residents in Scribner. The churches in the surrounding areas, either near Scribner or in Scribner, are the churches listed on this slide. My extended family attended St. Paul's Lutheran Church, which is at the bottom of this list. Everyone in town attended a church, and it was very important to have a home church. Because of this, it was very taboo to switch churches. My family attended St. Paul's. One of my informants shared multiple different traditions that happened at this church. This included VBS, confirmation, a sunrise Easter service, and Christmas services for children. These events emphasize the importance of religion to the town. Now I'd like to talk about the Dodge County Fair, which is one of the more important events that happened at Scribner. But before I get into that, I'd like to mention how my informants enjoy talking about the history and legends of this town. One such historical event they shared with me was the dynamite explosion in 1929. This explosion killed multiple people, and to this day they are still remembered and honored. The Dodge County Fair is a historical event, and it is the beginning of many love stories, annual events, and fun traditions. It began as a stock show in 1906, and then in 1939, Scribner and Hooper, a nearby town, combined to form the Dodge County Fair. It happens the first Thursday through Sunday of August, and it brings in thousands of people of all ages, sexes, beliefs, and backgrounds to celebrate the community scene in this town. My grandparents met there, as I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation. My grandma was invited by a few of her friends to go to the fair, and there she met my grandpa. He invited her to a fair. He invited her to a party that Sunday, and they've been together ever since. Oh wow. So at the Dodge County Fair, there are different events during the day and different events during the night. We're going to start talking about the events during the day. This includes rides, food vendors, 4-H barns, animal showings, games, art displays, kids' tractor pulls. These are all super important to the community and embrace the celebration that happens at this town. During the night, there are bigger events. On Friday, there is a concert. As you can see by the top picture on the slide, many people attend this concert, and it's very important to those who live in the town. On Saturday, a demolition derby happens, followed by a tractor pulling event. Demo derbies are super common in rural areas as they're very dirty, and they're very dirty and cheap, and this form of entertainment is greatly enjoyed by those who live in a smaller community. They're loud, messy, and exhilarating. These events are important for bringing people together and celebrating each other. And then on Sunday, there's a parade. So at the parade, there are many marching bands and many different types of floats and vehicles. The floats include church floats and then floats for the DARE program and FFA. So the DARE program stands for Drug Abuse Resistance Program, and this is to keep people out of doing drugs in a small town. And then FFA stands for Future Farmers of America. Also at this fair are marching bands, semis, cars, tractors. The fair begins with veterans leading the parade. This is to remember the freedom that Americans hold, which is a very important feature of many small towns. And at the end of the parade comes emergency vehicles. They are at the end so that if an emergency happens during the middle of the parade, they can easily slip off without disrupting the rest of the parade. Moving away from the Dodge County Fair, we're going to talk about different traditions in Scribner. So I'm going to actually start at the bottom of my list and work my way up. Some school traditions put on in Scribner include those at the elementary school and those at the high school. Events put on by the elementary school include different choir programs, both in the winter and the spring. High school traditions seen throughout the town include that of homecoming. The whole town gets decked out for homecoming and celebrates it. They paint on the windows, and get the whole town excited for this high school tradition. And then a Christmas tree decoration is an event that happens, or used to happen, in modern day. It has been changed into a craft fair. Analyzing the description of different traditions seen in Scribner shows the importance that this fair shows the importance these traditions hold in the town. It brings folks together in a way that embraces and celebrates this community. Now we're going to talk a little bit about folklore and how it is conserved and varied across this town. Events happen every year, but sometimes these events have changes to them. This includes little things like different vendors at the fair, different rides, different people every year, different vibes. It's very generational and people continue coming year after year. The community was preserved as families kept attending year after year, generation after generation. The popularity of oneself was determined by a few different ways: cliques, wealth, and that affected the community of the town. This status was forgotten at the Dodge County Fair, where people's guards were let down and they just enjoyed themselves instead of caring what other people in the town thought about them. In addition to community-held folklore, religious traditions were also poured into Scribner. Beliefs from the founding of Scribner were still held to modern day. This means that when they established Scribner in 1871, they were Christian, and still to this day, this has held on, which I find super cool. This shows a sense of conservation, even though they may vary in different ideas and few traditions. People did not leave their churches once they established. Family events during the year were impacted on Scribner. This included the Dodge County Fair and various events around town. The function of this folklore was to hold together the community of this town. This community was preserved in the past, acted upon in the present, and will be continued in the future. And here are my works cited throughout my whole paper, not just in this presentation. Thank you for listening.